Welcome back to the Conviction Fiction. I'm your host, Antoine, and today's episode is about breaking free, not just from a cell, but from the mindset that kept us locked in for a long time, right? It's about gang culture, it's about reentry, redemption, and the moment you realize survival ain't the same as living. I'm your host, Antoine Rivers, and I've got two powerful brothers on today's episode, both of whom ran the streets hard, served serious time, and now serve a higher purpose. You heard the phrase hurt people. But what happens when healed people come and step up to heal their community? I want to go ahead and introduce you to Travis Freeman. He's 27 years old from Fort Smith, Arkansas. He got caught up in gang life since he was like 13 years old, in and out of the system. And now he's a man of faith and recovery who wants to stop the cycle before it starts. And then we have Matthew Stevens, a man whose time in federal prison taught him about power, division, and the painful truth of how race and gangs are weaponized behind bars. He turned that pain into purpose, now doing advocacy work and building bridges. Matthew's been on the show before. So if you guys are ready for a great show, let's go ahead and get into the Conviction Fiction. All right, first of all, I want to welcome y'all to the show, man. Thanks for coming on, Matthew and Travis. How's it been going, guys?
It's going pretty good, man. You can hear
All
me?
right. Yeah, we can hear you pretty
Okay,
well.
okay. All
All
right.
right, so this first segment we're going to talk about the prison before the prison. So let's start at the beginning. Travis, you called it my own prison. When I reached out to you, you wrote me back. You said hey, you were in your own prison. And Matthew,
Yes,
you even
sir.
said before on the show that prison was just a mirror for what was already broken. What
Yeah.
did the world look like for each of you before the system even touched you? Let's go ahead and start with Travis.
So, growing up, I thought that was normal, trying to fit in with friends, and I thought it was cool. I was listening to all these rappers, and then I'd actually met some people that was actually living that lifestyle that was on count, and you know what I'm saying? They was certified in that lifestyle, and I thought it was cool. Um, it came up being like family, friends, and stuff. Well, when I say my own prison, I was already institutionalized within gang culture before I even went to prison and figured out what institutionalized really meant. You know what I'm saying? I was I was doing music, I was going to shows, I was just, you know what I'm saying, I was doing drug activity, I was doing gang activity, I was a menace to society, man. And I was already institutionalized, like I said, it was just spiraling downhill, and I thought I was going uphill.
Yep, I got you. Matt, for you,
Yeah.
what did it mean? What did it mean for you? Like you said that you were looking in a mirror that was already broken. Right? I
Yeah.
think you talked about it some on the last episode.
Yeah. For me, it was about being trapped in the mindset of just um, being thinking that I was a gang member or thinking that I was a dope boy and living that out and listening to the music and listening to the negative message that came from the rap music of the 2000s and 90s and back in the mid and early 90s when gang culture first hit. And I got trapped into the mindset of thinking that that's how you're supposed to live. And I started running around the streets and clicking up. And so I was basically in the prison mindset, not a correctional facility, but I was trapped in the bondage of my thinking. And that thinking was drug and gang activity and trying to sell as much dope as possible, trying to use as much dope as possible, and just really thinking that the correctional system was cool, thinking that it was okay to go to prison. Then when you go to prison, you meet up with other like-minded people, and it's a big game. So like you get trapped into the mental aspect that it's okay to be a criminal, it's okay to be a convict, and you rep that, and that's how you get your street cred. And I was trapped in that for about 18 years of my life, thinking that that's how you're supposed to live. And I, that was part of that thinking process.
Okay. So what made the streets feel like home? This question is for Travis, because he's like, he got caught up, started running with people. What made the streets feel like it was home?
What made the streets feel like it was home was whenever I was locked up, everybody that I loved and knew that loved me, I was calling them. Whenever I got out of prison and the disease of addiction took control, the streets was my family. You know what I'm saying? They would look out for me as in if I needed someone to ride with me. You know what I'm saying? If someone was Facebook beefing, if someone was just talking trash, man, we would pull up and they would have my back. You know, it was just having my back in the wrong way. I mean, if I needed a pack, they would give me a pack. If I needed, you know what I'm saying, they would help me out in ways and just dig me deeper into that lifestyle. And now that I look at it, like, man, we were just all going downhill, and that's not what we was brought it up to be. You know, we wasn't looking out for our community. We wasn't making sure the next one was straight. It was just blue or nothing. You know what I'm saying? It was just gang or nothing. We didn't care about other people. We just cared about each other. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
what
So
made me
going
feel
back,
as a family.
yeah, it did give you the false sense of family. So going back,
Mhm.
when you think about like that first arrest or incarceration, the first time you got locked up, Matthew, do you remember the first time you got locked up? Yeah.
Yeah, you like a prison bed or like a county jail bed?
We
Yeah,
talking about the prison
I
one,
remember. Huh?
the
I
prison one.
Yeah, I remember both. The first time I went to prison, my first initial instinct was to prove that I'm an inmate, I'm a convict, I'm about it, and I ended up getting into some fights out there on the yard where they had to shoot the pistol to get us to break up, and I ended up doing my time backwards and going to the hole a lot.
Mhm.
But I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought I was supposed to hit that yard, put some quick work in, get my street rep up, and then prison would be smooth after that.
Yeah.
And that mindset
Yeah.
had me. That's what caused me to go right back to prison. I got out of prison after doing 3 years, and 6 weeks later, I got rearrested and sent right back to prison. So that mindset that I went into prison with
Mhm.
actually elevated, and I became 10 times worse because I was in there trying to put in work and try to prove that I'm really a gangster and like trying to fit in. And it
Yeah.
caused me to become 10 times worse and go right back to prison as soon as I was released.
Yeah. That's what I was about to ask. So that first arrest or that first incarceration, did it teach you anything? Or did you did it take something from you?
Man, my first incarceration made me 10 times worse. I got out of prison and I got a 9 piece of crack, and which is 9 ounces, and I was out right at 6 weeks before they locked me right back up. So no, prison the very first time I went made me 10 times worse.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
And
and
that's the perfect segue
all
for go ahead.
all I did was meet new drug connects, become more elevated in the street culture, and I got my name up to where when I got out, I could get that 9 ounces of crack. To where before I went in, my purchasing power was probably only maybe a half ounce of crack. But once I went in and put that work in, and people got to know me, they felt more comfortable with me. To where now I came out almost like a super criminal. So prison absolutely made me 10 times worse the first time I went in.
Okay. Do see some comments posted. We got, I guess I want to pronounce that right. Shay. She's on. If anyone that's in the or watching this live on YouTube or on Facebook, comments are active. So if you have a question for one of our esteemed guests today, go ahead and shoot it out. Now, that's what I was going to talk about. Like my first arrest, I don't think what it took from me was this whole idea that I could not make it in there. Once I was in there, once I made my Matt was talking about making his mark. It took from me that fear, because at first I was scared, right? And out of fear, I started doing crazy stuff, right? Just to prove like I belong. It took from me that fear, and it kind of hardened me, right? It wasn't just about the bars, it was the weight of being told this is all I'm ever going to be. I had to learn that, I had to imagine that, my life could be better. And I can imagine both of you had to unlearn some things too. So with that being said, going over into our second segment, we're going to ask, starting back with Matt here. Let me just go ahead and get this off here really quick. My sound person is not working tonight. I'm kind of doing it on my own. All right, so what we're doing it now is going to go talk about the gang culture, right? We're talking about the streets. I think Travis alluded to that. Because it's real, especially when you're young, broke, and looking for a family. That can be your family. So, Travis, you were active in the streets and inside. And Matthew, you talked about the way the system actually feeds into gang division and feeds into all that kind of stuff. So let's unpack that for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When what role did gangs play in your survival? And I guess I'll go with Matt on that one.
Yeah, well, for me, the role that gangs played as for survival was just being a part of something that protected my ability to acquire more drugs. So, like, being connected to certain people allowed me to purchase more crack or more meth. And without that substantial background in the streets, I wouldn't have been able to get that kind of crack, that kind of weight. So, definitely, gang culture and street culture. Um, Influenced my survival in the streets by giving me the credibility to do things that a lot of people just couldn't do.
Hmm. Okay. What about
Yeah.
you for you, Travis?
Okay, so what I'm saying, being affiliated in the world and going to prison, I was, everybody has that they're afraid because they've never been in that element. Whenever I went there, I was kind of afraid. I'm white in a different type of gang than the regular white man. So I went down there and it was like a family reunion. All of my homies that I knew out in the streets, my older homies, they was there and they welcomed me. So it was like it was already home my first time. So I felt like I was in the streets while in prison. I was already comfortable on my first day. And I
Yeah,
just
that was I was
learned.
about to ask you just now. Like I was about to ask, did it feel like uh did it feel like protection or prison inside of prison? Right when it came
It
to
was
being in the game.
it was a sense of protection. I had other people from the same gang that was, what I'm saying, in prison from all different areas that would, what I'm saying, go to meetings. We would all come together. I didn't really know them, but the way that they introduced me to it is they are with us too, you know.
Yeah.
But there was also people from Fort Smith where we're
Mhm.
from that was there, and it was almost like living in the streets, but we were behind walls in a sense,
Right.
you know.
All right. Shay has a question. And I don't know if we want to get that one in now. Because when I look back, I don't blame the homies. I blame the conditions for me.
Yeah.
But breaking free meant breaking that identity. And that ain't easy when you built your name, you came up a certain way or you built some type of reputation. But Shay, I'm going to put this up on the screen for you guys to see. Shay would like to know what avenues can be taken in order to help our community change.
Yeah. I think in my opinion, based on my experiences, conflict resolution, when you're into it with somebody, you don't have to shoot that person. You don't have to get your rep up on that person. You don't have to take it to that next level. So I think the most important thing that we could do in that aspect is just conflict resolution and just people coming together and saying, hey, just because you're into it with this group of people or this individual doesn't mean it has to turn out in an extreme measure. There's nothing wrong with communicating. There's nothing wrong with talking about it, and it's okay to be wrong. It's when somebody's having a conflict. It's okay to accept that. Hey, what I did was wrong, but we can move forward. You agree to disagree, and you move on to the next agenda, as opposed to getting stuck in something that's going to cause you to spend the rest of your life in prison. Because if you can't handle the conflicts without going to the extreme measures, you're going to do something that's going to cause them to take your life, and you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, or somebody's going to kill you. So it comes down to communication, being cordial, and just stepping to somebody with witnesses, saying, "Hey, you offended," in a respectful way. You say, "Hey, look, this is what happened. You offended me. I'm okay with being offended, but it offended me," and it gives that person the option to apologize and own their situation and be responsible enough to say, hey, I was out of control too. I apologize if I offended you. You don't have to be you don't have to take it to the extreme of I'm going to shoot this person, or I'm going to do this, that, and the other to these people. It's okay to end the conflict. It's okay to be the bigger man and say, hey, we both got off the wrong track. You know what I'm saying? And it takes creativeness and it takes a good mindset. And it's just something that has to be done. If not, you're going to be stuck on it for the rest of your life. And, you don't want to be stuck on it for the rest of your life, because if you do something stupid in the heat of the moment, you're going to pay dearly for it. And you're going to regret that decision for the remainder of your life.
All right, what's your take on that, Travis?
Okay, so the avenues that could be taken in order to help our community change. I think that with this podcast, and with also, you know what I'm saying, talking about gang culture and the gang outreach, this is going to reach some people who want better for the younger generation, So I think if a big homie from every single gang or hood would come together, kind of like Matthew was saying, man, if they all came together with the disagreements that they've had and come to like a agree to disagree thing and started one big movement with everybody in it, it's like almost like if you cut the head off the snake, the body don't work. So if the head of the snake is moving a certain way, the body's gonna follow it, and that's how I think that not that's why I look into the future, man. Everybody coming together and starting a righteous movement. It's
Okay.
going to help the next generation follow and take that next step that we're taking.
Okay, so both of you guys have had pivotal moments. Travis, you said that yours came when you got arrested recently, like in March of this past year, this year, March 25, and then the recovery house in Clarksville. And Matthew, you said your awakening came in the feds when you saw how government manipulation, race, gangs, all that stuff played out. It's like a puppet master type thing going on. So talk to me about the moment when things finally clicked, when it was like in your head, you was like, okay, I got it now. This is what I need to be doing. Was it one moment or just a slow shift? Go ahead, Travis.
Okay, so I want to say it literally was a lot of things leading up to one moment. So whenever I got out of prison this time, I've been making music for a long time, and I really got hot in my city, and I was doing shows, I was promoting a lot of things, and I was getting a lot of attraction from this, and the detectives and the police were watching what I was saying in my music. They was going to my shows, they was watching everything. I had made a song, ran off on the plug. They was watching all my actions, and one day, I woke up, and I was still in the drug activity, and I was riding with my wife, and I went to a known drug area, and we were being followed by a minivan. You know what I'm saying? And while we was driving, we got pulled over by two minivans, some F-150s, and some Fort Smith police. And at this time, I didn't have nothing on me at the time. But it was just scary because I didn't know all this was just, what I'm saying, a chain reaction from me getting out of prison, putting myself out there as still an active gang member in the drug scene, and that's when I came to the realization that I literally can't do nothing without them watching me. So there was no other way but to try a different way. I was scared. I still had some stuff to make money off of, I would say, but I was so scared that I had to get rid of it. It was gone, and I had to really change my life and find a new way. You know, I couldn't.
Okay.
I literally can't live that lifestyle no more legally because it's hot where we're from. And I don't want to live that lifestyle nowhere, not even Fort Smith or anywhere.
Yeah. What about for you, Matt? When things finally clicked for you, was it like a slow shift, or was it just like one moment, like this is enough? I know a lot of people, they end up either like, I don't know, maybe an accident, a car accident, or they get shanked up or something, or they something happen and it just like, hey, I can't do this anymore. But other people, it's like it's a progressive thing. So what was it for you, Matt?
I think for me, what the pivotal moment was when I got arrested, and I knew I was going to get 15 years in the feds, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. There was no lawyer that could get me out of it. I had ran that course until it ran to a dead end, and just realizing that my consequences are different than everybody else, And, you know, if I get arrested with something, I'm going to do a decade in prison. If somebody else gets arrested with something, they may get drug court or they may get probation. So it was basically just living that lifestyle of going to prison in and out, and then getting set down with a 15-year federal sentence and not being able to move. And I ended up doing 14 years in it. But I think the pivotal point, honestly, was when I got arrested, and I'd already been to prison 4 times. And at that point, I knew it was over for a while. And that's when I made the decision that I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing and live a different life, because deep down I knew better than to do what I was doing. You know, I was trapped in bad decisions, but I still had options out of that stuff. And I chose to go back to them streets time and time again. So when I got arrested, I knew that I was going to do a substantial amount of prison time. And that was my pivotal point, was when they put them handcuffs on me, because I knew it was serious, because I had pushed it to that level of seriousness.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I knew that when they busted me this last time, it was going to be serious and I was going to get a substantial amount of prison time. And man, but the criminal addict thinking was keep pushing until you get busted. And, you know, and that's what I did. I kept pushing until I got busted. And as soon as I got busted, I knew it was curtain call. And I honestly knew when I got arrested, before I got arrested, that when I do get arrested, I'm going to change my life and get myself out of these streets. It's just I didn't have the willpower to stop what I was doing. I had to get them handcuffs. And so the pivotal point for me, you know, almost happened before I got arrested, knowing that I'm going to get arrested, you know, and that I'm going to have to go do all this time, because I knew I was smart enough to know what was coming. I just didn't have the willpower to stop what I was doing.
Yeah.
And
that happens.
So I'm going to say the pivotal point for me was it happened before I got arrested, you know, because mentally I knew that I was about to get arrested and do a substantial amount of prison time.
I think the pivotal point for me came, I was working in one of them programs, you know, and I was one of those guys that I started in the program just because they used the thought or the promise of, you know, getting out early or something like that. You know, they're going to reduce my time or, you know, bring me up early for parole or whatnot. And so I was sitting talking to a counselor, God rest his soul now. His name is James Walden. And I was working as an intern. He was like, "You're really good at this, man. You kind of know it." I was faking it till I made it, right? So he's like, "You're really good at this. People really connect to you and all this kind of stuff." And he was like, "Do you think you?" He was right around with 9/11, because I was locked up during 9/11. That's how long I've been locked up. So it was 2001. I was in probably like my fourth year. I was in this program. He said, he asked me a question straight up. He was like, "Do you think you're supposed to be here?" And of course, you know, I answered him, "No, I'm supposed to be here, man. I'm smart, man. I'll work and stuff. You know, I'm not supposed to be here. You know, they just got me on a bad rap. I mean, everybody else do it. They get away with it. What about me? They caught me, so no, I'm not supposed to be here." Then he asked me about my faith in God. He asked me like, the God that I serve. He asked, is your God like powerful, all knowing and omnipresent? I'm like, yeah, the God I serve, yeah, he pretty much can do anything he wants to, right? He know everything. And he was like, so God is pretty much in control of everything, right? And I'm like, yeah, he pretty much, yes, God, don't test my faith, dude. That like God is in control of everything. And then he looked me in the eye, man, and was like, well, if your God is everything that you say it is, do you think if he wanted you out, he could get you out? And I was like, damn. I mean, my whole faith got shook. I was like, damn, God want me up in this bitch. Like, I don't mean to curse, but it threw me for a loop, bro. I was like, God want me up in here. Because, I mean, in faith, the faith that I said I was serving, like, God could do anything. He could tear down walls. He can do everything.
Oh, yeah.
But he couldn't get me out of prison, right? Unless he wanted me there. So what role did mentorship, faith, or education play in your change, Travis?
Okay, so my sponsor, Nick P, he's from Fort Smith. I also went to prison with him back in 2018. He introduced me to this program, Next Step Recovery, and Jimmy McGill is he's our mentor now, you know, and he's really changed my life, man. He's helped me get the tools that I need to change. You know, he's the head man of Next Step Recovery. He has a gang pass too, and he just shows us that it's cool to love God. It's cool to love, you know what I'm saying, Jesus. It's cool. Recovery is fun. It's not boring. He takes us out to eat. He shows us all these tools and stuff while we're dealing with life things, you know. In prison, the mentors and stuff there, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to teach you things, but you're not dealing with life things every day. You know what I'm saying? So you think that you changed, but he's a good mentor and he just shows us that it's cool. Recovery is cool. Changing is cool, you know. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
it's
want to give a
different.
shout out to Jimmy McGill for real.
Yeah, big shout out to Jimmy McGill and the Next Step program. They're doing some amazing stuff in Arkansas. And that's what gave me the blueprint on how to change my life and what to do was watching and listening to Jimmy McGill and just understanding that there's light at the end of the tunnel and that I do have a seat at the table that I used to be banned from. And that's the seat of freedom. And, you know, what the difference between some ordinary person talking into your life and an OG talking into your life that you really respect and you really know from the streets, it's life changing, okay? Because we're not going to hear life changing techniques from somebody we don't respect. But if
Mm-hmm.
somebody from the street steps to you with a criminal jacket and they've got a penitentiary jacket a mile long and they're like, look, if you don't change your ways, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison just like I did. And it takes on a whole new meaning when your mentor is an OG. You know what I'm saying? And
Okay.
it
Yes,
takes on a
sir.
whole new meaning, and you start listening to this person because you value what this person says, and it's life changing. You know, when you reach them streets and you use that street credibility in a way to help somebody, it's life changing, and it gives you fulfillment because you're part of the solution, not part of the problem, and you're reaping the benefits of it. And you're seeing people like Travis change their lives, and it's the most fulfilling thing you'll ever experience in your life, man, because Travis was sitting in a jail cell. They were wanting to send him to prison. He had three people step up that all three have spent decades of their life in prison. One got him a bond. The other one helped with parole and got him into the program. And I helped him with the legal issues. And those are all three credible people who would be considered OGs in these streets. Went out to bat for him and helped him get to where he needs to be in a safe spot to where he can get his life together. And that's what life is about, man. It's about helping people. It's about
Mhm.
using your personal history and rechanneling that in a positive drive and helping people. And that's where we get our rewards from is by helping people.
I agree
Mhm.
with that, bro. Because for me, the change started when I realized I couldn't keep blaming the system. I couldn't keep blaming my circumstances and still expected to win in those circumstances. I had to own my own peace. And that's what we try to do with the podcast and try to spread that word because
Yeah.
that process can be excruciating, especially if you don't want to deal with life on life's terms. We got the choir in the back. Shay say yes. She say, "Man, she's definitely in tune with this show." But we made those decisions, and we want to continue to promote those good decisions. And like Matthew said, I mean, you don't want to listen to a plumber about electricity. Okay, you
Yeah.
don't want to do that, right? So it's very important that we paid attention and we're doing our due diligence for the next group of guys to prevent them or even show them a way that even if you do mess up, there is a chance for you to reshape your life and actually help somebody out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
And
sir. The solution.
we're seeing the biggest blessing in Arkansas right now as county after county, judge after judge, prosecutor after prosecutor is looking for alternatives in people's sentencing where before they weren't looking for alternatives. So the prosecutors and the judges and the police are finally recognizing that prison is making us 10 times worse. And we're coming out of prison as super criminals. And they're starting to use alternative measures because they're realizing that it's doing more harm than good. And so we're seeing a real pivotal point in Arkansas where people are starting to use more logic in our judicial system, and they're starting to use a more restorative justice format where people are, rebuilding their lives as opposed to destroying them.
Right. Now, Travis, you gave your life to God, and Matthew, you spoken on and on about like the grace that you received and the internal war that we all fight to forgive ourselves. So let's talk about how faith fits into this whole fight. All right. I think we're all on here men of faith, right? So
Yeah.
my question for Travis is, how did you forgive the people who hurt you? And how do you forgive yourself?
How do I forgive the people that hurt me?
Mhm.
Man, the ones that I think would, hurt me, I put myself in positions to be involved with them people. So
Mhm.
just like you said, man, it's hard to play the blame game on everybody else because it was really our faults. Just dealing with that lifestyle and stuff, and I had to come to the point to where I had to forgive myself. I had to ask for forgiveness for myself and also forgive myself because I would think about the things that I done to people, and it was hard to move on. But the thing is about me forgiving myself. Once I've done that, the people that I've reached out and tried to, ask for forgiveness, if they don't accept it, I have to move on with my life. You know what I'm saying? Once I forgive myself, like, and that's through God's grace. Like, He's opened up doors for me so big that I never thought would open. And if there's a way that I could, learn some or educate myself through these podcasts and reaching out to people, if I could help Him open up some doors for others, man, the big thing about it is forgiving yourself. You can't move on without forgiving yourself. If you
Okay.
have faith in God, if you believe in God and can't forgive yourself, that's like straddling the fence. You can't do it. You have to keep going, man.
Yeah. So that's my question for the OG, one of the OGs on here, Matthew. Do
Yeah.
you think healing is possible without spiritual grounding?
No, I don't. I think that you will hold a grudge for the remainder of your life if you don't give it to the God of your understanding. I've seen a lot of people get peace in Islam. I see a lot of people get peace in Buddhism, and a lot of people are getting peace in Jesus Christ. And what the spiritual aspect does in forgiveness is it teaches you how to accept what happened and forgive them and give it to God. Because if you fight that battle, you're going to lose every time.
Man, I used to think forgiveness was for the weak.
Yeah, well,
Maybe
forgiveness.
I was the only one thought that,
Yeah,
You
but
have,
now I
yeah,
know
get put
it's
aside,
really a power
aside.
move, man. It's
you know,
really a
you
power move.
yeah,
It's how
it
we
is a
get our mind back. I'm
yeah.
still on that journey. And I think that, with the podcast, because I mean, there are a lot of prison shows out there, man. There are podcasts out there. There are people that post stuff. And my whole thing with starting this podcast was about the internal part of the internal work that you have to do in order to really find rehabilitation or find reentry success. And that's like dealing with feelings of shame, guilt, all that stuff, learning how to forgive, that's the key part of the core of any reentry program that is successful. There are a lot of them out
Mhm.
there talking about with the logic and all that stuff. That's important too. But if you don't have some type of faith-based uh, uh, center when it comes to reentry, then you're bound to fail. I mean, because here's the thing: you're going to try to teach someone that has been lawless, right? A lawless individual to become smarter, right? Well, you shouldn't think that way. No, we need to have some type of governor, whether it's your God of your choice, whether it's Buddha, Allah, Jesus Christ, whoever. You need to have some type of grounded center to keep you humble.
Yeah,
Other than that, you're just going to be a lawless individual.
yeah.
So
And
I definitely believe.
it
Um,
it goes it goes back to the prison. Before the prison, we're taught to handle business in the streets. We're taught to knuckle up, or we're taught to shoot somebody when they disrespect us,
mhm.
and we're stand on that. And if we don't stand on that, then we're not real, or we're not as hard as we think we are, or whatever the situation is. But it comes down to an intelligent mindset operates on forgiveness, understanding, and logic. And when you operate on anger and you let that vent out, that just goes to show you that you're really not that intelligent of a person.
Yep. And I do want to give a shout out to the couple of viewers that are on that are making comments. Lacey, she joined in. She was like, people like us, people like you, that can make a difference. That's all of us. Um, and of course, this is a long one. This is from Essa. I don't know. You guys might know Essa. Essa says, big thank you to Travis Freeman. He's my brother. And he showed
Yeah.
me that if he can do it, anyone that is willing to want to change can change. Like myself, I've seen his growth that made me want to change my life also. So look at Travis, man. Travis making an impact all over the place. right? That's a good thing, man.
Yeah,
Kudos.
that's that's
Travis.
that, that's my brother, man, and I think you know what I'm saying he would love to be involved in this too, man. He's from the same type of background that we all are, you know, and he's
Yeah,
changed his life, and he can reach a lot of people too. And I want to touch on what Shay had said. She had said forgiveness releases resentment. You
yeah,
know, we resent a lot of people, man, like our resentments. And if you're hating somebody for something that they've done, it's hard. If you keep on thinking of that, man, you gotta release that. You know what I'm saying? You have to release that, or in the back of your mind, they could be speaking on the podcast or in a meeting, and the whole time they're talking, even if they're speaking some fire stuff, you ain't even gonna be listening because of something that you resent. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's always good to, say forgive so you can actually start listening.
All
You
right.
know.
That's what's up. So, Matthew, now that you're free, man, what does free really look like? Looks like in the backyard.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of backyard. Man, what freedom to me is about freedom of choice and being able to think on my own terms and make decisions on my own terms, and really break down and analyze situations on my time, as opposed to being rushed into something, whether it's peer pressure by inmates or law enforcement or whoever the situation is while you're in prison. Freedom to me is about having choices and being able to analyze before you jump into a situation. And before, I didn't have that choice, whether I was on drugs or whether I was incarcerated. I just blindly jumped into situations without looking at it. And
Yeah.
freedom to me is about being able to make a choice.
Okay. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
Trav, you said it best when you wrote in when you first signed up. You said being a criminal with a bad background is stopping parolees from getting good jobs, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and Matthew, you work with programs all the time, trying to uh, reverse or change all of that. So
Yep.
that's very important. There's good work that we're going to do, and we're going to keep encouraging everyone that's listening, and even you guys, man. You got to have that encouragement. Hey, you got to keep going. So have there been any barriers? What barriers have you hit in reentry, Travis? Any barriers?
I'm trying to think of can you elaborate a little bit more on the barriers? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, like a barrier,
Dang.
something that kind of like you were going on a reentry path and it was like a trip up or something that you're like, oh, I don't know if I can make it, or this is a hurdle that you had to overcome. Anything like that
Okay,
happened in
so
reentry yet?
while I've been here, is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so yes, my very first couple days, man, at this transitional living house, man, I felt like I didn't fit in. I felt like I was from a different background, a different, what I'm saying, culture, and the environment. Just my mind wasn't, I've never been in a program before, just like in prison, I would get into a program just to fake it to make it. But whenever I
yep,
came here, I felt like I didn't fit in, and I knew it was for me, so I had to. I got a family that never gave up on me. So if I cheated this program, I wouldn't just be cheating me, I would be cheating my family. So I had to kind of, I had to I had to adapt and overcome,
yeah,
So, and it's crazy because there was a gentleman that came a couple weeks after me, and he had asked me, he said, "Man, though, I got a question." He's like, "Man, how'd you feel when you first got here?" And I said, I felt the same way you did. I felt like I didn't fit in. You know what I'm saying? But I just got to talking to people, listening to their stories and stuff, and that was really my breakthrough. I had to get comfortable and figure out that all these people, even if they're from different backgrounds and different places, they're all going through the same situations mentally,
yeah.
and just that's what I had to get through.
What's up? What barriers have you faced reentry, Matt?
My biggest barriers is just getting people to trust me after spending 18 years of my life in prison, go to prison 5 different times and racking up 21 felony convictions. It's a tough sell. And just, people see me at face value and they're like, I like what he's doing. I like what he's saying. I dig it. But that probationary period of, that little time frame, until people really start opening up and trusting me is critical, and it's annoying. and it's a hurdle because I want to do stuff right now because I know what I'm doing and I can't get there because of my past. And the biggest hurdle is just not being able to be where I want to be, not being able to be what I'm capable of because of the decisions I made decades ago.
Okay. All right, so what's your vision for a real opportunity? Not just survival. What's your vision for real opportunity?
My
Which was
vision,
it for? Okay.
my vision for real opportunity is probably based on just staying grounded in what I'm doing with the reentry stuff, with the addiction treatment center that I work at. I'm a board member of a separate addiction treatment center in a town about 100 miles away. My vision is to just consistency, just keep doing what I'm doing and be consistent, and every day get a little bit better, get better in my words, get better in my actions, grow my network, and just sell what I'm selling, and just make it last. So my vision is basically just being consistent in what I'm doing now, and just see where it goes.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast, man, because not only because I wanted to be a businessman, I got like a couple of the ventures that I wanted that I started here. Because I really had no choice. I didn't have a choice. I had to start doing my own thing because if the world wasn't going to open up the door for me, we got to learn to start building our own doors. And starting halfway houses, starting a podcast, starting a program, all that kind of stuff. Start public speaking. People get paid for speaking. You know what I mean? So sometimes you have to do all of that, and when those doors are sometimes closed, because I know I experienced it. I have felonies. So I was like, I'm tired of having to go to an application, and they asked me, okay, so we see that you had a conviction back in that year, and I'm like, do we really have to talk about that right now? Like, bro, I'm just trying to get a job. You know what I mean? And so it became embarrassing. I can remember my first job, man. I think I borrowed some of my dad's old clothes. And he was, I want to say, he was about my size and a half, right? So he was double. He was like I was wearing robes when I was going up in there because I didn't have any clothes, bro. Like I didn't. You know what I mean? And so just applying and going through the reentry process, it was really frustrating. Those are some of the barriers that I felt embarrassed. Even applying for a job, I felt that guilt, like, I didn't belong, pretty much like what Travis was just saying. Even in job interviews, excuse me, I didn't feel like I belonged. Like, these folks ain't gonna hire me, man. I felt awkward even going to concerts and shit and stuff like that. I couldn't, felt bad. I was like, if you've done time,
Yeah.
if you've done time, everybody's watching you.
Yeah,
everybody.
It's hard to socially, and it's just you're talking to people who's never been to prison, who's never been in your situation, and you start registering in your head that you're different, and whether
it's a confidence killer. It's definitely a confidence killer.
Your head that you're
I couldn't even enjoy concerts. I couldn't enjoy walking in the mall and stuff because it felt like it was too much going on. A lot of noise, a lot of people. Here, I felt like I could hear everybody talking. It was definitely anxiety inducing. I definitely had some anxiety when I go. And it kicks in now. My wife, she has to pull me to the side. She's like, just calm the fuck. I mean, just calm down. Just calm down. He always tells me that. Just calm down. Just relax. Have fun. And that could lead to, especially someone like me, because I used to use too. I like cocaine was my thing. And weed, smoking weed, I don't even think that's really a thing anymore. And alcohol. So I was kind of addicted across those three things. And when I felt that anxiety, I would want to resort back to those things that I knew. Those like my comfort foods. A lot of people like pizza at night. I wanted to do a line. You know what I mean? I wanted to do a line. So it was one of those things, like I had to learn how to deal with my anxiety. Like, why was I feeling that way? Right? Understanding why I was having these emotions. That was like the most important thing. So I just started saying to myself, like, I'm just gonna build my own without all that extra fluff. Now, we're gonna end with this because we've been on like 45 minutes live, and we're gonna end because I'm gonna ask this question to both of you guys, and I don't know. I'm going left to right, so Travis, you are first on my screen. All right, so you're standing in front of your 13-year-old self, 13-year-old Travis. I wish I had a picture. I could show you a picture of 13-year-old Travis. Travis Freeman. That kid, he's about to make that first bad choice. What would you tell him?
Man, what I would tell him, I mean, I wish I could just like show the proof of this is me. You know, I see movies all the time of like Back to the Future or something. You know, I wish I could just tell him, man, that you are gonna end up doing calendars, not days, not months, not just a year, but years in prison, and most likely even be killed, man, if you just keep on going down the road that you're going. You know what I'm saying? From 13 to, you know what I'm saying, to 18, those are real critical because we're looking, even if we have a father figure, we're looking for big homies or people to fit in with, you know what I'm saying? So I would tell him, man, the road that you are already doing, the stinking thinking, is gonna lead you to being my age 27 or 60 years old, going through that revolving door of prison with no life, with what Matt was saying, no freedom to make choices, to go to the gas station whenever you want, to just have your family. You know what I'm saying? It's that's a hard question, man. That is, man. It's like it's really,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
really
because I
touches
would want
my
you to
heart.
picture yourself. I wish the next time I ask that question to people, I'm going to have that as a requirement when you come on the show. I'm gonna put the picture up, and I'm gonna say, look, tell this guy something right now, right? I'm gonna have the picture up, and you're gonna have to talk to yourself as a 13-year-old. For Matt, my question for you, sir, what message do you have for the system? You have a message for the community and as for community leaders. What do you have?
I would say, well, if it's definitely the judicial system, community leaders is to exercise compassion and understanding and logic, and that everybody that we arrest isn't a criminal. A lot of us are, a lot of the folks that we're dealing with are dealing with co-occurring disorders. They're dealing with trauma. There's something wrong with them to make them act the way they're acting, and it's easily addressed through prison programs and restorative justice programs. And it only takes about a year's process of really working with somebody to get that person to become a 10 times better person. And the statistics indicate that these programs are 90% effective. Almost all programs that use evidence-based curriculum are 90% effective. So my message to any kind of leader in the judicial system or in the community is to just think logically and understand that these people that we're arresting aren't criminals. They're people who are mentally stuck in a situation that's easily avoided, and they can easily be corrected. And regardless of their charge, regardless of their gang affiliation, regardless of what they've displayed, that's not who they are. That's not who they are. And that through the proper programming, the right mentorship, you're going to get better results. And so my message is just straight up compassion and being logical, and treat that person as if they're your son. Because a lot of these judges and prosecutors, what we see is when their children get in trouble, they don't send them to prison. So do the exact same thing to our children that you would do to your children, and that's think logically.
Yeah. All right. That was a great show, man. I want to thank you guys for joining the Conviction Fiction. I want you guys to stick around because we're gonna like wrap up, do like our little post interview type stuff, talk about the experience and who's coming back, who's not, and all that kind of stuff. I know, Matt's a regular. I know Travis. I expect you to be back. So I want to thank you guys again for joining. This is the Conviction Fiction where we try to change the narrative and change lives in the process. Because reentry is not an easy road, and it's a lot easier when you have people that are walking with you and are encouraging you on this journey. My name is Antoine Rivers. I want to thank you guys for joining, and this is a Conviction Fiction. See you next week.